Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is John Jermaine Leto.
I'm Eden Clark.
And thank you for being with us here tonight as we explore how to honor our transitions on this topic of that's a part of the series of free monthly web episodes that we do for the work that we do in John and Eden, which is all about living a more soulful life. And so I feel like this topic is not happening by accident.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so interesting right now. It seems like another transition, really another transition. And so it's been interesting, though, even the feedback we've had from people leading up to tonight's webinar, because, I mean, who isn't in some kind of transition, some kind of reinvention of sorts? And so tonight we're going to explore how do we handle these transitions in our lives by not freaking out, but rather with grace, with ease. And so that's what tonight is all about.
And yeah, as John mentioned, it was interesting when we put it out on Facebook and through our newsletters and everywhere else. We really got a tremendous response tonight, which we really got the guidance that this was to be the topic, and it just shows, as he said, so many people are going through numerous transitions, no matter where it is in life. So, really take what you can tonight and apply it to whatever your situation is. And of course, we'll do some questions at the end as well that we can help answer maybe your particular circumstance. But just know that you're not alone, that a lot of people are going through sometimes some pretty heavy transitions, but there's always a way to really do it gracefully, and that's what we'll be covering.
So here's a little cartoon I posted recently on my Facebook page. And of course, it's Jesus saying, "Where you see one set of footprints is where I carried you. And then that long groove over there is where I dragged you for a while, kicking and screaming." And so that has sort of summed up how I've been feeling lately with my own transitions. I know I should be moving in this one direction. I've been given some signs, and yet I think, like most people, I'm human. And so oftentimes we want to just hold on to what has worked. We want to hold on to what's known, what's safe. And yet we feel something else knocking, something else that's new, that's meant to come in. And we often resist that. I just feel like sometimes it's so common for us to resist the transitions that we're in because we're being called to expand in some way. And that expansion process is often just uncomfortable. And so tonight we're going to be exploring here how we can handle this with more grace and ease.
Yeah, and what I really see too is there's really two types of transition that we go through in terms of often we see it coming, right? We kind of feel that bubbling up. Okay, a change is coming. Where are we? Do we need to make a change? And then sometimes we're just thrown into it. If it's a sudden someone breaks up with us or the death of a loved one or whatever it may be. So really, no matter how it happens, whether you see it coming or you don't, the process is still the same. It's still that expansion, as he said, that's happening, to you, but for a good reason. There's always a reason for that expansion. So just know that and trust that there is that expansion that's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And so let's actually start off with a little poll where we're curious. What is your primary transition at the moment? So I'm going to go ahead and launch this. And if you would, please go ahead and answer this. I'm going to give you guys just a couple of seconds. If you would, think about this. And there may be transition in many areas of your life at the moment, but what's your major transition about right now? Is it in a relationship? Is it some area of your career or the work that you're up to? Is it in the passing of a loved one? Is the transition a transition in your own consciousness? Or is it something else entirely? So we've got about half of the people have voted. We can't tell, by the way. It's totally anonymous who votes for what. So please feel free to answer this honestly. It'll help us here direct things within the call. And I'm going to close this in 5, 4. Get your votes in. 3, 2, 1. Closing the poll. And let me share the results with you guys. So most people here, if looking at this, there is the primary transition for them is in their career or in their consciousness. But certainly people are look, we've got transitions happening all over the place. People transitions also in relationships, in the passing of our loved ones, and in other areas as well. So
and that often happens. I know, especially even in my life in the past, when we have one transition, often everything else kind of follows suit, right? It's like dominoes. You make one transition, like career per se, and then suddenly it's like, okay, now I move cities, and now this comes up for healing, and now relationships with other people, and so it's definitely a domino effect often, and it can be challenging.
Yes, and so we're going to share some ideas tonight, and really the things that we share from our own experience. It's not some stuff we read in a book somewhere. So we just want to share from our hearts with you tonight some of the things that we've been thinking about lately regarding our own transitions, and how it can maybe help illuminate some part of the transition that you're going through. And so, but tonight it's all about you. And so we're going to be taking some questions at the end, but feel free, if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and jot them in that little box right there, and that will communicate those to us, because we do want to get to the things that's most on your mind, most on your heart here tonight. So feel free to just send in those questions as we go, and we'll just get to those at the end.
And also know, just to add to that, whatever you may be going through, don't be shy about asking that question. We won't share your name if you don't want us to. And just know that something you're going through could very likely be very similar to what someone else is going through. And what your question is may help someone else in their own healing. So just know that sharing can be really important in this kind of community and forum to really help all of us grow.
Great. So about transitions, I feel like the old ways, they're not working anymore. But the new ways aren't fully formed yet. So now what? Now what? And oftentimes what we can do is we just sit there in the middle of it, and we struggle. We struggle. And in that struggling, we can often then revert to some unhealthy things. We can revert to behavior that doesn't serve us. We can revert to trying to distract ourselves. Can I just stick my head in the ground for a while and hope this whole transition just blows over, and then I can just come back up and, oh, okay, great, it's fine now. And sometimes when we try to do that, when we just distract ourselves, Spirit has a way of trying to get our attention. At least I've found that. Spirit sometimes they'll cut off your money flow, or they'll have you spill some liquid on your laptop. I did that recently. And so it's just a little message saying, hey, what are you doing? There's a higher path here, and we're trying to get you, trying to point to it. And so,
or sometimes even more intense. Like in my past, I was in a massive car accident, and that accident had to happen because I wasn't listening for years. I wasn't listening to the change. The universe kind of went, oh, you're not listening? Okay, let's literally slam you over the head and get you aware and stopping for a month. So it can hit you hard, definitely.
And so in any kind of transition, the first part is like things get stirred up, and it's never comfortable. And people, when change is happening, people tend to freak out. And so
we tend to hold on to, of course, what's comfortable for us, right? We know what's comfortable. We get in a routine, even if it's a job we've only been in a year, or a relationship, whatever it may be. But yeah, it's comfortable, right? Even if we know our hearts aren't fully happy, our souls hurt, because we can't just go that same job day in, day out. It's just not making us happy anymore. Or that relationship, you're like, oh, I love this person, but in your heart, it's not quite right. And again, like you said, the old isn't working anymore. What you're currently in isn't working anymore. But because you don't know the new, you don't see the new, it's hard to make that leap. It's a leap of trust. It's a massive leap of faith.
And so what's important, and this is why I'm grateful for each person that showed up tonight, is when you're going through hell, you keep going, right? You don't stop. And so we're going to be sharing some things now with you about how do you keep going? How do you don't just stop and sit in it or distract yourself, but how do you handle this in a more graceful way? And so how do you honor your transition? And Eden has a beautiful story around how embracing cycles are key to honoring the transition that you're in.
Thank you. So I just want to share with you guys a story, as he said, of my own personal experience that was one of the more profound things that happened to me in my life. Trying to keep it short. Years ago, before John and I were together, before we'd even met, I was down in the Amazon jungle. As some of you know, we do our shamanic work, our shaman work with the Peruvians, specifically in the jungle, the curanderos, the medicine men and women down in the Amazon jungle. And I'd found myself down there. through a lot of trials, and as I mentioned, a big car accident, and life really falling apart, and my whole ex-marriage falling apart, losing a company I'd built for 5 years, and I had 26 employees. I'd melted down, so my health was at its lowest point from the car accident. I was having troubles walking. Emotionally, I was a mess from this marriage that just was hurting my soul so deep, but I didn't think I could leave it, to just everything not working. Literally all levels of my being, I was at a low point. So I found myself in the Amazon jungle, deep in ceremony with the curanderos. And I'd specifically, I started having the visions during ceremony, and I had asked to understand the universe. Okay. And my spirit guide came in at that point and said, it's a little big for you right now. Let's tone that down. How about you just understand your own solar system? And I said, okay, let's do that. And so she took me out, and I was flying, like having these beautiful visions of flying around each planet and all this. And we came upon Earth, and I just saw the beauty and abundance of Earth. It was this breathing, living being of Earth. It was the most powerful vision I'd ever seen of our planet, and very visceral experience. And I had basically asked her at that point, what's the most abundant place on Earth? And she said, well, you're in it. I said, well, what do you mean I'm in it? She said, in the Amazon jungle where you're sitting. And I said, okay, then just that moment, my vision we zoomed in, and I suddenly saw the Amazon jungle just teeming with life, just literally breathing this like abundant plant life and jungle energy and water flowing, the animals and the birds and the butterflies, and you name it, just pure life force energy. And I felt it so powerfully. I said, okay, well, why is that? And what she said is, because cycles are honored here. So there's cycles of death, rebirth, and growth that are always honored. They're never slowed. No cycle is held on to. So with every death that happens quickly, it allows rebirth to form. And with rebirth comes growth. And in that moment, I just saw this beautiful cycling happen, like so quickly, of like trees and plants dying and animals dying and going into the ground, and then new seeds forming, coming up and feeding the next round of plants and animals, and this beautiful cycle. And in those 3 cycles, she ended up expanding it, and I ended up seeing so much to do with my own life and really our entire culture and the planet we're on, that most people don't honor the cycle of death. They don't honor these 3 cycles of death, rebirth, and growth. We hold on to death, right? And we resist, or all we want is growth. I mean, think of the entire economic system we're in. Stock market. God forbid there should be something that slows down for a while, or in business. God forbid it should, money should not stop coming in for a little bit. It always has to be growth, 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 right? We always think we always need to be abundant, or relationships should always be great, right? Always be growing, right? You have your moments, right? So what happens in that is we're literally going against the universal law of cycles, okay? Absolute basis of who we are biologically, energetically, spiritually, you name it. It's cycles, okay? Ascension is a cycle up. You've probably seen that in numerous spiritual traditions. So when we resist death, because we always want to hold on to growth, or it should always be good, we don't allow that rebirth to happen. And when we don't allow that rebirth to happen, we suffer, because we're sitting there in the death like, oh, this is so painful. I can't expand, or why isn't the new coming in? Because you're sitting there holding on to the old, holding on to that death, hoping something new is going to come in while you're still sort of one foot or one hand holding on to this old thing, because you want to be able to hold on to that next branch before you let go. But that's unfortunately just not how the universe works. You really need to embrace those 3 cycles and understand what phase you may be in, and knowing that it's okay. It's okay that you don't see what the next thing coming is, but trust that just as, the sun will come up another day, the world will go around. Again, think of our universe, right? Solar system spins, our Earth, our planets spin, right? The cycles of, winter, summer, spring, fall, right? Everything is a cycle. Okay, our own body cycle. Everything is a cycle. So just trust that you're in a cycle, which means it will end, whether it's good or whether it's quote unquote bad, right? So again, just trusting that if you're in that death phase right now of something letting go, don't prolong it. The longer you prolong the death and hold on to it out of fear, which really is where my big lesson was how much fear I was holding on to, about holding on to a marriage that wasn't working, holding on to, physical health issues, holding on to emotional issues, because I was so fearful. And so once I could let that go, it was like, whoa, suddenly whoosh, all the new came in, all the rebirth started happening so quickly. We met 4 months later. Okay. So, and there's a deeper story there, but it was so quickly that rebirth happened when I finally let the floodgates go of the death. Okay.
And so, thank you, babe. So we honor our transitions by honoring the cycles that we are actually in.
Yeah. And what death are you in right now? I mean, look at your own life and what part of you has to die right now.
And so it's by having a healthy relationship with that transition. It's understanding first and foremost that you are indeed in a massive transition. And so it's by honoring it, you understand that you want to be in relationship with the thing that you are transitioning around. You want to have your eyes wide open. You want to do the opposite of distracting yourself. And so was doing some thinking and writing the other day, and what just sort of came to me were what would be the characteristics of a conscious transition. And the characteristics of a conscious transition, meaning how can you approach this with your eyes as open as possible? How can you approach this transition that you're in, whether it's around your career or relationship or even in your own consciousness? What would be the characteristics of approaching this in the most conscious way? And the first thing is really to understand what I was shown is that it's not known, meaning that you don't actually know what you're going to be transferring or transitioning to afterwards. If you knew, well, this would be pretty easy. If you knew the way, you wouldn't need trust or faith at all. If you could see the way, then you wouldn't need trust or faith at all. And so, but that's what makes it so hard, is that we can't see the way. Oftentimes we can't see the branch that's swinging right to us, and so we let go of the other one. And so that's what makes this so difficult. So one of the things is it's understanding that well, it can't be known, but it's not supposed to be known. Do you think the caterpillar knows that it's going to be a butterfly? No way. It's just munching around, eating those leaves, and goes into its cocoon. You think when it's struggling and doing all that, you think it actually knows what it's going to be? I don't think so.
Probably pretty pissed off in there. That's what I think.
Yeah. So, but the first aspect of a conscious transition is having a healthy relationship with it and not freaking out because you can't see the way. You're not supposed to see the way. Mm-hmm. If you could see the way, faith wouldn't be necessary. Mm-hmm. That's step number one.
So just surrendering. Again, really hold that energy of surrender. That it's okay to not know. It's okay that, if there's some fear here, I don't know what's new, but trusting just what your intention is coming out of this and just holding that. And we'll talk a bit more about it in a second.
And so the second part of the second characteristic, rather, not really a step, but more of a characteristic of a conscious transition that, as I was shown, was that you got to be easy on yourself. Mm-hmm. You got to be gentle with yourself. It's a transition. We're having, by the nature of expansion, we are struggling a little bit. It's probably know this, that if that caterpillar is helped on the way outside of the cocoon, this has been studies that have done this. If it's helped in some way, if they try to let me make it a little easier for you, buddy. Let me kind of slit this cocoon a little bit as you're coming out. It won't have the strength to fly.
It'll usually die.
Yeah, it just simply won't have the strength to fly afterwards. So all of that struggle, all of those things are actually necessary. And yet we tend to be super hard on ourselves. If for a moment or a night, we eat too much ice cream or whatever it might be that we do to cope with the situation, we just got to be gentle with ourselves. We do have this dichotomy of our existence, of this dark and light, and I feel it's about integrating all of it. It's not just about, hey, just this idealized version of who we think we're supposed to be. And if we can't be that way, we get all down on ourselves. And so I feel like it's just about, hey, be easy with yourself, forgive yourself, come back to the light. That's all you need to do is be easy on yourself, come back to the light.
Just be really present with where you are at that very moment. Again, release, surrender, just, okay, here's where I'm at. Aren't seeing the new. Gentle.
Yeah, gentle. In the Amazon jungle, what one of the curanderos was always telling me is tranquila, meaning calm. When I was freaking out, going through something in one of the ceremonies, calm. It's going to be all right. It really is. I'm here to say it's going to be all right. You're not going to die physically. It may feel like, oh my God, I'm dying here. Because maybe an aspect of your soul is dying because it needs to for something new to be burst forth. And that's okay. Yeah. It really is okay, but calm. Yeah.
And let me actually just add to that where you just said that is, again, death, right? What part of you is dying? And be okay with that death. Have a cry about it, okay? Have a release. Have an honoring, which we'll talk about in a second. But death is good, okay? Our culture fights death. It hates death. It has so much scary stuff around death, right? And so much horror and everything around death. But death is a beautiful thing. And the more we embrace death, the more we can let go of that suffering, okay? And death can happen every week. You can have little deaths every month. Again, cycles, right? Every year, every couple of years. We always have lots of mini deaths of things in our lives. And just honoring and seeing that it's a death, going, okay, I recognize it. So do a grieving process for it if you need to, if that's where you're at. It's fine, but just honor that death that's happening. So.
The third characteristic of a conscious transition, I feel, is to be able to be in stillness. To be in stillness to allow the new to come in. Yeah. The last webinar that we led, the one last month, was all about going beyond meditation. And the whole point of that was that if you don't sit in stillness, not that you need to have some crazy meditation practice, but if you don't find the calm or the stillness, that in this transition, if you operate only from the level of your mind with this transition, you're going to feel like you're losing your mind half the time. And so what's so important is to allow for the new to come in. To not just operate from the level of your mind with this transition, because if you do, it's just going to be you chasing your tail, your mind running around in circles. And what stillness allows for, which was the point of the last webinar, is it allows for spirit to get a word in. And that spirit getting a word in, whether it's a shift in consciousness or in a relationship or in the career, it's that exact thing of that thing that's trying to occur to you. If you miss that, you're only going to prolong your suffering. And so it's vital. It's vital that you be in stillness nearly every day, as much as you can, to allow for that new thing to come in. Because in that new thing, that's what's going to allow you to have the bridge to get to the other side of this. And so that's why that stillness element is so important.
Yeah, and that, again, that comes back to the whole being gentle with yourself, right? If you're really being mindful of being gentle, and yes, you still might have to do work or take care of kids or whatever it may be, or a loved one that's passing, but just whether it's if you're near a beach, go sit on the beach or take a walk in the forest or just a quick walk around your block, but just being conscious of in that stillness or meditation or even a bathtub, even the shower, if that's all you get in a day, really consciously just, okay, I'm in a death process. Let me go still into my heart. What's trying to come in? What lesson is there in this transition? And do that every day. And just, again, 5 minutes. We're not talking, if you can do an hour, great. If you can do 5 hours or go on vacation, fantastic. But it's not about that. It's really just those small moments of, again, being present to where you're at and being in stillness to hear or sense something that wants to come in.
Great. The fourth characteristic of a conscious transition is that you have to honor it. Mm-hmm. You have to honor the transition. You honor your transition by honoring it, not by walking around pissed off that you're in this transition. Why am I experiencing this? How come I can't just have that steady ground? Mm-hmm. Any ground you think is actually steady is probably an illusion anyway. But sure.
It just popped in. I remember I think it was just before our daughter was born, a year and a half ago, a little before that, when we were in lots of transition in so many ways in our life. And I had this potent vision in meditation where literally I was sort of in this cave-looking place and the entire ground was rumbling underneath me. And I was very emotional about it. And the entire ground, and I started seeing the ground falling away under my feet. And I was really freaked out. I was like, oh my God, where do I step? I'm going to fall. Because as the ground was falling away, it was like going to the very center of the earth. It was like fiery and almost like hell looking. And all the entire ground fell away till I had one pillar left that I was standing on, almost like tiptoe, like balancing on this one pillar under my feet. I remember that vision. I was like, oh my God, this is all I have to stand on. And that's exactly where we were in our life, is like, holy crap, everything's changing, everything's shifting. What am I going to do? And I remember going, okay, I'm steady on this pillar. I can balance here. Well, I think a day or two, or maybe it was a couple of weeks later, I'd done a lot of honoring and really trying to embrace the transition, the death of what was happening. And I remember I went back into meditation, and that same vision came back. This time again, all the ground fell away. And again, I had that one pillar, and I was like, okay, I'm floating. I kind of got something to stand on. But then whew, that pillar crumbled under me. And what happened in the vision was I was floating. And it was like, whoa, okay, I didn't fall. I'm in this vision floating. But it was a really neat metaphor and vision of like, I'm okay. Everything's fallen away. It's a little scary because I didn't know I could float. I didn't know I could fly and hover in space, but I'm just going to hover here. And that really set the tone for, okay, I'm hovering for a while. The ground underneath me is gone. I don't know what the heck's going to come next, but that vision helped me. So I'm just wanted to share that in case that helps you, that it's okay if the ground's fallen away beneath your feet. It will come back.
And the other part that's so important about the honoring it, and why it's important to honor it, is because unless you honor something, you can't change it. It's so important. If you're sitting there resisting it and not wanting to face it, not wanting to really be with it, it's going to be really hard to change the situation. And sometimes what really needs to happen is to really honor the old even. You know, one of the things that we often do, we're always creating altars around our house, and altars to different things. And recently I made an altar for one particular transition, this one particular situation that's pretty challenging for me at the moment. And I realized after I made this altar exactly why I did it. It's because, and it was actually to a person in my life that I'm really close to. And I made an altar for this person. And you know, it consists of a stone and like a candle and all that. That could be an altar. What I mean, it could be, you know, pictures of the situation. It could be,
The person or the job,
the job, the person, whatever it is, and it just it could be, you know, set it up, and it could just be just something that reminds you about it, but just some way that you honor that in like an altar kind of way. And we have tips on how to build altars on the website on JohnandEden.com. But I realized what I was doing is by honoring this situation, by honoring this person, I was allowing it to just be and to shift on its own. And so it's one of the important elements is to be able, you know, unless you honor something, it really can't change. Yeah. But the more you honor something, the more that you allow this some space to really breathe and to shift on its own.
Yeah. So again, absolutely honor. And I'm just going to add to that even if it's painful, meaning a career that you hate or that's not bringing you money, or you hate your boss, or again, a relationship where that person's been not good to you, or a family member that maybe you're at odds with, but they're still passing or ill, still honor them. You know, honor for the lesson even that they taught you, even if it was a tumultuous situation, just honor that, wow, okay, for whatever reason, your soul chose that situation, right, to be in, or that relationship, and go, okay, I honor that I chose that. Even if you don't know why you chose it, you're still maybe a little pissed off or bitter about the lessons that were coming through from it, which kind of was my process for a while. I still had to go, okay, I honor that I chose this for something that I needed at a soul level. And that's sometimes enough to kind of release the burden of it and step through.
The fifth characteristic of a conscious transition is then to just simply allow yourself to be surprised. Allow yourself to be surprised. I feel like the universe, as Eden once said, the universe will always dream bigger than you will. And so it's about allowing this new to come in, allowing yourself to be surprised. You can't see it. You can't see the way. And so it's allowing that butterfly, the metaphor of that, to emerge, to simply emerge. Yeah. And so I feel like the less that you resist, the more with these different characteristics, the more you can be okay with it just not being known, the more gentle you can be with yourself, the more time you can sit in stillness, the more you can honor maybe where you come from, honor what was, honor the transition that you're in, to just allow the universe to conspire. It's conspiring to shower you with blessings, as Rob Bresney would say. And so,
and let me add to that as
yes.
well, just with the concept of, the universe will always really dream bigger than you can. Really be with that, in that as long as you just hold your intention of, hold your intention of where you're going, hold your intention that, again, I'll just self-reference here, in that story about the Amazon jungle, right? The Curanderos 5 years ago, wherever it was, 4 years ago, that I knew coming out of that, wow, here's huge honoring I had to do of, my marriage at the time, and what happened with work and what happened with the accident. A lot of honoring, right? I spent a really deep month, really just a month of honoring, and still not having a clue. And within 4 months, like I said, I had no idea coming back from the jungle that my life was going to change. I knew I would change, but within less than 4 or 5 weeks of coming back from that trip and doing the honoring and embracing the cycles, I not only was separated, moved to a new city, all new friends, new job, met him 4 months later. And little I know, within 2 years, I'd be married and have children. Okay, so it was a very quick, the cycle happened. And so it's okay to not know, as we said, and the whole dreaming bigger, just hold. I knew in my heart at that time, I just wanted my soul to be happy. I said, I want my soul to be happy. I want to be surrounded by love, people I love, people that loved me, and be surrounded by beauty. That was something else that was important to me. Beauty, in my surroundings, in my home, and whatever it was. And I got to move to, by the beach, and then meet my life partner, and all these amazing things.
I'm the one that got surrounded in beauty.
So it was one of those things where, again, I just held my intention, kept saying in my prayers and my meditations, okay, universe, this is what my soul is calling for. I have no clue what this is going to look like. Okay. And of course, fear still came up, but it was just reinforcing that vision. Here's the vision I'm holding of what I want. And even the job, I didn't know what kind of job or career I was going to transition into. It was just, I wanted something where I could feel love, give love, feel that back in what I do and how I contribute. And beautiful things started showing up. So again, just hold your intention, but don't necessarily know that it has to be this job or this career or this place to live. Okay. And let the universe do the work for you, because they absolutely, spirit, your guides, everything else will absolutely collaborate to make something better for you. Okay.
Yeah. And so, what questions do you have? Anything around what you're particularly going through, anything about relationships, anything about career. Part of some of the coaching that I do is all about helping people transition to the work that they were born to do. And so
consciousness transition, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so much in that. So please, if you've got a question, we'll stay on the line for a few more minutes. We typically talk for about 30 minutes, and then we do about 15 minutes of Q&A if there are Qs. So who has a question for us? And you can just go ahead and type it straight in there, and we can answer it. And if there are no questions, that's cool too. No worries.
So just take a moment here.
So take a moment, and who has a question? Feel free to just go ahead and type it in there. Any thoughts, any comments, questions, feedback from the webinar or web episode tonight? Any questions for us? Don't be shy.
Oh, there's one.
Okay.
So we don't have to say the name if you don't want. So.
Got it. So I'm just going to read the question. I'm not going to say who it's from. So it said, my husband left me 8 weeks ago, and although the marriage wasn't great, I'm astounded by the huge amount of pain I am experiencing. How do you ride out this transition when it is so painful?
Yeah, that's right.
What's occurring to me in the moment is to really take a look at what is your pain about. And it may be painful to look at this. Much easier to just distract yourself. Is the pain, what is it really about? Okay, meaning, this is just a bad example, probably doesn't apply to you at all, but some people love the the ego identification of never having been divorced, or something like that. Okay, probably not your situation at all, but I just want to use a kind of an example of something about. So, is the pain rooted in what's your pain actually rooted in? And because if you can understand what is your pain really all about, or is it, if you're saying the relationship wasn't great, then it's not going to be easy. And sometimes pain is inevitable in what you're experiencing. However, I have full compassion for you. Truly, truly, I do. It is, I'll just say this. Um, Once I was engaged to the woman I thought I was meant to spend the rest of my life with, and when that situation fell apart, I went through probably the darkest time of my life. And it was the most pain I'd ever experienced in my life. And yet it was the single thing, the catalyst that drove me headlong into my spiritual journey. It is the thing that allowed me to open up to newness and new things that I could have never dreamed possible, allowing me to meet my true beloved, um, allowing me to be in a different part of the world, doing slightly different work. It's led to so many things. And at the time, I could not see that. I had to go through a lot. It was a massive transition. It took about 2 years to fully heal from. And there was a lot of pain involved in it. And so I'll say this, one of the things that really helped me was to be able to look at this from not only the emotional pain I was feeling, but to also address it from the energetic. One of the things that Eden and I feel very fortunate to hold are some energetic tools. We've completed a really intense 2-year training program in energy medicine. We've spent numerous trips down to not only the Amazon, but with the other indigenous medicine men and women of Peru, receiving rites and becoming healers to be able to heal from the past. And so part of one of the things I do is I use those tools every day with people to help them move beyond the thing that they haven't been able to move beyond. The thing that even though at the level of the mind it makes sense, I should be able to move beyond this, but I'm still stuck in it. And
there
so
could be definitely some things.
And so I'm feeling that this, you're experiencing so much pain because this is a multifaceted issue. And I say that with all the compassion in the world for you. But I would say, look at this from the soul level, in addition to looking at this from a mental and emotional and physical level. And when you heal something at the soul level, that biggest level of life, it allows for transitions in the way you think about it and the way you feel about it. It allows for that to move through that transition faster, more gracefully when you heal something at the soul level. And so part of what we do is in that one-on-one work, we support people in that way. And so just no pressure whatsoever. But if it's something that you feel you may want some additional work around, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you to see if setting up an actual energetic session feels right. But my heart does go out to you because I understand how difficult that is.
Yeah, and let me add, because going through divorce myself, and it happened so suddenly. But again, like you said, in my case, it was sudden, but then in hindsight, I'm like, whoa, but we were suffering for a long time, a while in the marriage. Two things when I just kind of tune in and track a little bit with you. One is one of the lessons I had in that transition was look at, is there a sadness for you? And it really, I remember the heart, I would be on the floor sobbing, like I couldn't breathe. The pain was, it really felt like someone stabbed me in the chest. And I was like, holy hell, what is going on, right? So I know that pain. And part of the pain for me was how do I say it? I was becoming so present energetically, emotionally to where I had ignored my own heart. So it was the pain of seeing finally, wow, I have ignored that I've been upset for so long, that I've been in pain for so long. I've been bearing it and hiding it and not seeing the signs of a bad marriage or someone treating me poorly or abusive or whatever it was. And there was a pain there to release around not honoring my own journey and who I was and what I deserved. So that just comes up in case that's helpful for you as well. And again, the honoring, really as much as you can, as hard as it is right now, honor. Okay, this was how many years you spent, or decades, whatever it was, spent with this person. Honor what it was. Honor. And there might be, of course, a lot of tears and a lot of pain, but the light is going to come. There's a reason this is ending, so you can step into something far greater, so beautiful. Maybe again, a new relationship down the road that's so much better than what you had, and you'll be like, wow, oh my God, thank goodness this ended or he left. Okay, so hopefully that helps right now, but feel free to follow up if you need some more support or get help wherever you can, because you're not alone.
One last thing. Sorry. Just one other thing that's just occurring to me is the way you phrased the question, he left me. There's I'm going to say with all the compassion in the world, there's a little bit of, and I hope it's okay to say this, but a little bit of the victim sort of mentality. He left me. And so it's like being the victim in this situation, and it's disempowering to view it that way. And so sometimes it's hard. Well, how else am I supposed to view it? I've got all this evidence pointing to this. Of course, I deserve to feel this way. And yet there's another way to view this situation. I send you blessings for being able to see some other ways to be able to reorient your way of being or around it. Another question that came in here is, I'm sensing that this is the month for me to break away from a regular job to doing independent work. How does one know that the time is right to jump and take action? I love it. So how does one know when the time is right? You got to honor your own intuition. You got to honor the feeling in your gut. Is the time right now? You know, there are many facets to this, and one of the things in helping people to transition to the work that they were really born to do, one of the things I often am a big proponent of actually not just jumping off the cliff and hoping spirit catches you, actually, okay?
Because sometimes you might need to fall.
Because I did that. I did that 12 years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't need another consulting arrangement. I don't need anything. I'm going to be love every day. I know exactly what I want to do. Everything I've always touched has turned to gold. I'll be just fine. And so I launched into being, a life coach, and I fell flat on my face. And, I always had clients, but just not enough of them. And there was just, I had a whole bunch of things to learn that I have learned in the last 12 years of what it takes to build a successful business doing independent work. And so, one of those things, I've now created a course all about that called Create a Thriving Practice. And I've got one of those courses coming up in 2 weeks' time in Laguna. If you're interested, you can go to majesticpath.com, one of my other sites, /seminars, majesticpath.com /seminars to see about that. Because there are additional tools that people need sometimes in setting up their own independent work, I've come to discover. But this is the thing. I also feel like it depends on what do you have, like in terms of your resources to fall back on. Sometimes the biggest thing that you can do to really set up your independent work is to keep the day job for a little while, to keep it for a little bit longer than maybe it's uncomfortable with. And sometimes when you get that inkling of the thing you want to do, you just want to just let go of the whole thing and you want to just drop it. And the thought of that feels so good to just drop it. And yet sometimes you have to have the wisdom to know what really is right in this situation. Because sometimes if putting all the pressure on the new endeavor to generate all of your revenue, if you're really not set up for it in the proper reserves, it can actually hinder the process, I've found. And so sometimes it's holding on to that other revenue stream while you gracefully transition to the independent work. Now, I don't know what the independent work consists of, but sometimes what my general coaching in that, I do a lot of business coaching of people around this, is build up that independent work. Build it up a lot. Do it at nights, on the weekends, until it's just so easy to let go of that other regular situation, and it just allows things to be just that much more graceful and easy for you. And so, again, you have to figure out what's going to feel right for your particular situation. But that's the coaching I was called to give you here.
There's one more
Okay,
question.
it's fine. We're going to go ahead and...
Let's see. Let's just answer this
Yeah,
one as well.
one last question, and I think we're gonna wrap up here.
Okay.
So the question is, how do you deal with the confusion and self-doubt while waiting for a growth period? How do you deal with the confusion and self-doubt while waiting for a growth period?
Well, I think that in it, what triggers me, what you said there about, well, waiting for growth, right? If you're kind of sitting there waiting, kind of going, okay, where is it? Where is it? Come, right? We like things to happen in the way we want them to happen, right? We want them usually to happen fast, right? We don't want to sit in a rebirth period. But remember, we talked about death, rebirth, and growth. There's that in-between stage of death, right? Honor the death. Honor is what I'm kind of hearing for you, is whatever the confusion, self-doubt, and trust me, I know I've been there. It's, again, going back to, okay, I'm honor the old. You're going into rebirth now, not growth yet, right? Growth is a plant. It takes some time for that seed to germinate and start to come up and start to get the light and get the water and get a good grounding and the roots going before it grows all nice and tall. But we want the growth, again, to happen right away, right? Our culture, fast. We want growth right away. We want to see stars and twinkles and sunlight on us after we've let go. But understand that there's that rebirth in between that has to happen. So like you said, that is the part that can be that kind of tunnel that you're in of a bit of confusion, self-doubt, or a whole lot coming up. But keep coming back to that stillness. Keep coming back to the honoring. Do an altar. Get it up and out of your body instead of holding the energy within. What I'm really feeling is, again, we have links on our site, but sand paintings, altars, things that kind of get the energy where you can see them out going, okay, this is the period I'm in. There's confusion, self-doubt. Great, let's put it into the altar about what I'm actually holding and the intention.
Yeah, and also I'm getting the sense that your question is rooted in you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's confusion. That's why there's self-doubt, because you wait. I want to know. I just want to know the way, and then I wouldn't be confused anymore. I wouldn't have any doubt around the situation. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of go back to that thing of you're not supposed to know. Actually, you're supposed to be kind of confused. Mm-hmm. If you weren't, then you wouldn't be in a transition. You would just be in the normal thing that you would always be doing. And so by the very nature of you being in a transition, you're kind of supposed to be a little confused, and doubt only occurs in the mind. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's what half of your mind's job is to do, is to doubt. To be like, really? You sure? Mm-hmm. You sure you're supposed to be listening to this? You sure you're supposed to be on this webinar right now? You sure you're supposed to be listening to this John and Eden people? Are you sure? That's what half of our mind does. So thank you, mind, that doubting half of our mind. I would suggest getting out of your mind, being in stillness, mm-hmm. looking to your heart, looking to your heart. What feels right for you? Mm-hmm. What are the things that are going to bring you the most joy?
Yeah.
What are the things?
Vision are you holding for yourself for this next step? Again, keep coming back to your vision, your intention, because there's no doubt and confusion in what you want for yourself. What you're confusing and doubting most likely is how that's going to happen, how it's going to look, how it's going to show up. But if you know what you want in your heart, just keep coming back. Make a poster board with all your visions. Do things like that that'll really help you stay focused on what you're holding, what you're asking the universe to bring you.
Because you might be confused. Mm-hmm. You might have self-doubt. But he doesn't. She doesn't. And so it's placing your faith and trust in that which cannot be seen with your physical eyes. And that is what I would encourage you to do. So thank you. Thank you for being here with us, whether it's live or on the recording. Thank you for being here with us. Tune in again next month for the next web episode. Which we're going to continue to do. And
any more questions, post them if you want on either email us directly, just info@JohnandEden.com, or you can also on our Facebook, if you don't mind it being public, go ahead and post the question there or message one of us privately, and we'll happy to answer the question that way as well.
Which is it's facebook.com/JohnandEden. So thank you so much for joining us. Blessings, and may you get through your transition a little bit easier now that you've spent some time with us talking about it. Thanks so
Thank you.
much. Till next time.
Thank you.